Hello, we are sitting here with Dan and Evan, who run Houston Sword Sports. They've taken the time out of their day to speak to us and learn more about them, so thank you guys.
Thanks for having us.
Pleasure.
So tell me, like, how did you get into fencing when you first started?
For me, I was in college. I went to Purdue University up in Indiana, and I'd had a friend in high school who fenced, and he told me he thought I'd be good at it. And so when I got to Purdue, they had a club that was cheap, and I just fell in love with it. So I fenced all through college. We were a club sport, but we were able to compete against a lot of the different NCAA schools in the Midwest. And it was fun. It was just a blast going in there, that camaraderie, that sense of being able to get in there and do stuff. And so, yeah, did that. My wife graduated from Purdue. We met there in the fencing club and came down to Texas for grad school. And so I followed him down, coached and fenced at A&M for a while, and then came to Houston and been coaching here. So I've been coaching now for, gee whiz, probably about 30 years.
Wow.
So yeah.
And what weapon did you fence? Like originally, or all three, or how did you?
I've always been drawn to saber. Saber was my thing. When I started, they had electric saber, but it was still mostly non-electric. We could still flesh. It was still, it was kind of crazy. It was kind of wide open. But I was drawn to that. I liked that. It was aggressive. It suited my personality. I thought of myself as somebody who could do all three weapons until I finally realized I'm meant to be a saber. Yeah, that's sort of my thing. So yeah.
So you're saying fencing too?
Yes, I actually started at a birthday party. I think it was around 2006, and Coach Dan was coaching that birthday party.
Oh wow, that's
So, yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
So you raised your own coach.
Right, yeah. He's branched out. He's gotten some other influences, so he doesn't have to labor purely under me. But he's cool.
So how old were you when you started? Like, how did you get into it? What made you switch from fencer to coach?
So I was around 6 or 7 years old when I started at a birthday party. I remember it was pirate themed. After that, I signed up for a summer camp at a foil club, and we ended up doing 2 days of foil. And then Coach Dan was like, you know what, let's just do some saber for the rest of the camp, and now I'm a saber fencer. So
All right, cool. So do you teach all three weapons here? Or?
We teach all three, yeah.
Okay.
So I'm saber. I ended up marrying an epist, and so just straight out, if I was going to have a club, it had to have at least those two weapons. And my thought is that foil is the best weapon to start somebody in. I'm a saber fencer, and I love the weapon, but foil is more technical and broader, more deep than the other two weapons. And so you start somebody in foil, and they're going to be able to pick up the other weapons pretty easy. And then at that point, each weapon has a personality, and if you're exposed to all three, you're going to see the one that kind of suits you the best. But yeah, it's good to, I think, give everybody that kind of exposure. So,
Do you have a coach who teaches specifically foil in this club?
I and one of the other coaches do most of the foil instruction. At some point when we grow to the point, yeah, the plan is to bring up somebody who specializes in that.
So you've been here for 10 years, you said?
We've been a club 10 years. We started, I was working in another club here in town, and there's some turmoil. I decided I wanted to go in a different direction, and a friend of mine, her husband was coming back to Houston to be a professor at U of H, and she was like, do you know a coaching job for me? And I said, well, as a matter of fact, I'm thinking about starting a club. And so she went and she read a book. Her Liz Merritt, she can't be here today, but she read a book on how to run a small business, and so she's the brains of the operation. I try and do kind of the heavy lifting, and then but yeah, we started the club 10 years ago, and then after a couple of years, we were looking for a location, and we kept having people we'd go in, we'd find a place, we'd put in an offer, and somebody would come along and say, I've got a slightly better one. So we'd had 2-3 places sniped out of us from under us. And the guys who work here, we were renting a room from them on Saturdays. And so they said, we will build out part of the batting cage area for you guys if
Wow.
you want that space. And so, yeah, if you kind of look up, you can kind of see there, that framework over there, that's for the netting, the batting cage to hang off of, and it works great secondary for our overhead reels. But this was all batting cage, and we just, they have the AstroTurf, field turf kind of stuff underneath it. We just build our floor right on top of that for the cushion, and yeah.
That's cool. So, not everyone knows this, but so we're like a multi-sport facility complex. So it's pretty cool. So you have like basketball on the other side behind the wall. Here in front of me, we have like some batting cages right here.
Right. And then
so
upstairs, they've got mixed martial arts. They have a dance studio. They have a gym, a fitness gym, and then they have like Thai boxing.
Has that helped like your recruiting, having like a lot of traffic through here?
Yeah, it does, definitely. You know, we're kind of in the back, and so when you come in, we've got a sign out front, you know, asking about swords. We try and have that. It's near the restroom, so people will see that and like, what's that? And then they come around the corner and see us. But yeah, we've got some hits off that. So
We'll get people looking through the doors and, you know, come in and learn. So.
Most of those people, they are like beginners, or they maintain to be beginners, or they switch to competitive level?
We are mostly, we don't have a strong competitive program yet. We don't have a deep competitive. Our competitive fencers are good, but we're not deep in that right now. Most of what we're doing is, actually, let me back up on that. So, before I was here, I worked at a different club, and we were easily one of the best foil clubs in the country. We were very, very good. We put people onto national teams. We had national tournaments. We got a lot of medals. We were a very competitive, very strong club. And one of the things I saw in that club was the kids who would come in and they were really, really excited to fence, but they were not really, really excited to, you know, to do a lot of conditioning work, to do a lot of lessons. They wanted to be fencers. They wanted to, they didn't want to go to a lot of like regional or national or international even level events. They just wanted to kind of goof around in the club and fence and have fun. And we burned those kids out fast. And I came to a point, I'd been working there for a while, I came to the point it wasn't healthy for the kids. And I didn't know how healthy it was for me either. And then even kids who wanted that, you know, you see how fast they burn out on the sport. And if you look at like the stats on where American fencing is, you've got these numbers, and then you hit college and it goes off a cliff. And then you get to 40 and it's starting to ramp up a little bit again. As people are like, well, adults have money and they like to fence also. But in the meantime, and Liz has arrived. So
I've had several friends who have, you know, used fencing. They've been really good fencers. They got into a good school, and then by sophomore year they quit and they don't talk to anyone on the team ever again.
and so
We have a lot of this,
yeah.
taxes.
Yeah.
We do. All our fencers have gone to those schools, and we're proud. But again, just that sense of the idea behind this club was to be able to have a home for people who want to fence. And if you want to be a good, strong, competitive fencer, we can get you there. I've done that. We've done that. We've been there. We've done those things, and we can do that. And what I like to think is a healthier environment where the fencer can kind of find their own path forward. But bottom line, my idea is the idea where you get these kids in there just like grinding and taking lessons in grinding, going to all the tournaments, grinding. It's I don't know how healthy it is for the kids. I don't, and so that's you know, do we have strong fencers? Yeah, we have strong fencers, but mostly the idea is to have a place where you can come in and love to fence.
So, Liz, correct?
Yeah.
I'm David. This is Renata. Welcome.
Nice to meet you.
So you mentioned I guess this other program is not there anymore, or it's different now, or
Oh, the other club?
yeah.
They changed their name.
So the club in question is Saul Morrow Fencing Academy.
Okay.
And shortly after I left, Morrow was suspended by USA Fencing for safe sport stuff, and the club passed hands. And then a couple of years ago, they renamed the club. So they're still there. They don't have the same competitive focus that they used to. They are also, I believe they've backed off some and are more in the idea of trying to let people find their own path forward. But you'd have to talk to them.
Yeah, I'm just not trying to get it. Okay. Well, okay, so Liz, we asked with these guys, I have a question for you. How old were you? You got the 15. How did you get into it? The weapon defense. How did you be coach?
Sure.
All that stuff.
So I started fencing when I was 19 years old. I was a sophomore at Texas A&M, and you know, every semester all the clubs go out and try to recruit. They call it the open house, but it's a club fair, right? And the night before the open house, my sophomore year, my best friend had a dream that she and I were fencing. So the next day we see the booth, we're like, oh, we gotta try it, it's fate. And she didn't end up liking it very much, but I just loved it. I thought it was a lot of fun. I tried a lot of other sports and not been very good at all of them, and something just clicked the second I got that weapon in my hand. I fenced épée. I went to épée partly because on the first day that we were able to get weapons, there weren't enough foils to go around. But I also just was like connecting a little bit more with some of the épéists. I have now been married to one of those épéists for coming on 17 years. So that worked out. But yeah, so I fence épée. I like the more patient aspect of it, where I'm able to sit back and like take my time making a plan or setting up an action. When I have dabbled in foil and saber, that's a lot harder for me, like to just do it at the speed that they have to do it. What was the other? I feel like I got most of it.
How did you become, like, when did you become a coach? Why the switch? Like, what was, you
Okay,
know,
yeah. So I started coaching, so I was at A&M for undergrad. I went to Rice for grad school. So I moved here to Houston, and Dan was at Saul Morrow, and I could not afford the dues on a grad student salary. And so they offered to let me coach in exchange for like free practices. So that's how I started coaching, and I ended up just really loving it. A few years after that, my husband and I moved to Illinois. We spent 5 years up in Illinois. There was one club in our town that had just lost their youth coach. And so I started running their youth program. And then there was another club about an hour and 40 minutes away, and we went there once a week. And Sayed Amara was the coach there. He's out in California now. Just a really like all-around fantastic guy. And so I worked with him in exchange for also helping out with the classes. Got to take private lessons with him and kind of see like that more competitive épée side, which was what he was trying to build out there in the middle of nowhere, Illinois.
Oh, okay. I was going to ask you the Chicago.
No.
Okay.
So I lived in Champaign, which is 3 hours due south of Chicago, and then Peoria is like northwest of Champaign and southwest of Chicago.
Okay, because we just interviewed somebody in Chicago. That's why I wanted to ask. But okay. Okay, so cool. So tell us like, so you have, is it just you three other coaches here, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Okay, so what are your goals on this next year? Like, do you have? I know you said you want to try to build up the more competitive side of things. Is it a focus on one weapon? Like, what are your? Maybe you guys are getting big to a bigger place. Like, what are your goals for this next year? Do you think?
So our goal for the next year is just fill out our youth class more. We've got a really strong, vibrant adult program. We'd like to get more youth in, fill out the youth, and then we're looking for a second location. And the goal is to kind of meet people where they are. So we're offering some classes in what do you call it?
A rec center.
Rec center, not too far from here. But we want to like maybe expand into a couple more rec centers and kind of grow organically that way. Have our beginner programs there and then funnel those people back to here. But yeah, we'd like to probably pick up like another rec center or two, and then maybe find a second location. Is what we're looking at.
That's exciting. The second location. Whereabouts do you think you want to go to? Houston's a big city. That's why.
Houston's a huge city.
Yeah.
But
And that's,
the clubs skew west, and
Okay.
so, like, we, for a while, were like the easternmost club if you didn't count the stuff down in Clear Lake. And that's only by like across the street.
Why do you think that is? Is it just a regional thing and money thing? Yeah.
So, there,
what happened was, there was a club here in town, Bayou City Fencing Academy.
Okay.
And they brought in Morrow to coach, and then he split off and he started his own club. And that's not too far from where Bayou City was.
Okay.
And
Well, this goes way back, huh?
yeah, this is going way back, like 20 some years, right? Close to 30 years. So Morrow split off from Bayou City, and they set up shop not too terribly far from Bayou City. And then when I split off from Salmaro and hooked up with Liz, we looked at a lot of different places, but then we just kind of fell into this one. And that one, I'm sure it's probably the same thing like Salmaro is where it was. You know, it's like, it's just where they found a location.
Right.
But we found a location here, and so you've basically got 4 clubs in Houston, Bayou City, Space City now, Alliance, and Houston Source Sports, us. And of those 4 clubs, 3 of them, we are within like 3 miles of each other.
It's like a 10-minute drive.
there is also a demographic phenomenon called the Houston Arrow. If you look at any demographic map, the stuff that is associated with more money or higher education or any of it forms this like arrow, and all the clubs fall in the arrow as well.
It's not uncommon for us to have fencers who will drive an hour to get here.
Yeah,
And so,
but they're all coming from different directions, so you can't just be
Yeah.
like, oh, we got like 6 guys over there, we'll go over there.
yeah. So one of the things we've been talking about a second location, and we've got people out to the southwest, and so it makes sense to look out towards Sugar Land. Would be a solid place to look. We've got people down south. Carolyn makes a lot of sense. But there are other clubs that have locations in that area. So one of the things I talk about is Edo, which is east of downtown, which is kind of like an area that's building up right now. And so we're still discussing exactly which one of those places we're going to end up, but I'm pushing for Edo. So, yeah, but yeah, that's one of the things, you know, we have to scout, we have to kind of like work.
That's exciting.
So.
That's exciting. So, do you have any question?
So, yes.
Okay, I'm thinking, yeah.
I have a question. You guys, so your programs, you have 2 coaches so far.
Right.
How do you manage your time to be more efficient, to use this space as more efficient as you can, and how many students you have there?
How many students do you have?
So I recently looked, and we have 114 people with memberships. Not all of those are coming in regularly, and that doesn't count the after-school kids.
Right. So one of the big things we do is we do after-school programs, and so we will each day of the week we've got like different school we go to, and then we try and always send, if the class is big enough, we try and send 2 club coaches, just because that way when one kid's having a meltdown, you don't have to put the entire class on hold. But yeah, we always try and have at least 2 coaches in the club. That way one can give lessons, one can work with the students. And again, when you have kids, or even adults sometimes, you have that inevitable meltdown. You can kind of like...
Or the technology's not working, or somebody has a medical situation.
Or just one of us needs to go to the bathroom.
Or sometimes you just gotta go to the bathroom.
Right, yeah, so it's kind of nice, it's kind of, you know, so basically, we try and have a more collaborative approach, where you know, I'll do part of the practice and I might pass it off to somebody else, or they'll do something and pass off to me. And you can really use each other's strengths. You know, like, I have things I do well, I have things that I'm not so good at, you know, and so it's nice to be able to, it's also nice and this is, I think, good, really, for the guys coming in, they say Liz there, or, you know, they don't just see, you know, a bunch of clones of me, you know? So it's nice to have like different personalities, and so yeah, but yeah, it's the big thing, it's just having different people being able to like step in.
So what I understood, you don't have like a big focus on conditioning, right? Because you said that it's kind of hard to, or you do.
We do conditioning. We do more conditioning in the youth classes, and then for the adult stuff, we have a separate conditioning time. And that way, in my experience over the years, I've noticed if you put conditioning into an adult class, the adults are delayed by traffic. Or they got held up at work, and miraculously they always kind of like that. That's the point where
It's time to suit up.
I just missed the
So
conditioning.
sad.
I guess I'll just have to fence tonight. And so we don't do the conditioning so much in the adult classes. You know, and it's just
We have a
over the
separate
years.
time block that if they want to come to it, they can come.
Yeah, and so they have that option, but yeah, most of them, they're like, yeah, you know, next week I'm gonna be at the condition. I'll see you there, coach. Okay. You don't see it. There, spoiler, they did not show up. But yeah, no, they're. It's
So,
good.
so you guys, I mean, it's nice you guys are working, right? So like, I assume you guys working 6 days a week, right? Monday through Friday and Saturday?
We don't do
Fridays
Friday.
Huh?
We'll do after school programs on Fridays, and once a month we have a free class.
Okay, that's cool.
And then we also do like a social event once a month also. We call it Nerd Night.
Oh, that's cool.
And then, so like on the 14th, we're gonna do board games, and a potluck, and people can kind of show up, and you know, it's just team building. You know, give everybody kind of that chance to kind of sit around and talk about other
Do
things.
you
Share
market
some.
it? Do you invite people from outside for this event?
We try to, but you know, the best free marketing is Reddit, and the local subreddit doesn't like us to. I don't know. It's weird. I don't know.
A lot of it's word of mouth too, like
Yeah.
family members, friends of family. Like we might get people in here who have never fenced before. And, Nerd Night.
This may be a bit of way for you, you know, with social media, you can bring more
Yeah.
people, more people start to come.
Yeah.
Sure.
So how often, like, okay, so it sounds like you separate the kids from the adults, right? And you do conditioning versus like, say, technical drills or something. So how many nights a week do you guys suggest like practice for your students and all that kind of stuff?
We get most of our people. We try and get them at least twice a week.
Okay.
A lot of the kids will do one, and that's, they say school, and again, these are not kids who are driven to get to, you know, regional, national level.
And some of them are driving 45 minutes, and so like they
Yeah.
can't
Yeah.
come on a weeknight.
And so,
I mean, we have a couple people who come in 4 or 5 times a week if they really want.
but yeah, you know, and then there's a few that show up, and the line I have is, the more you come, the faster you get better.
100% true.
And so, you know, and then at that point, you have to make that decision. You know, it's a trade-off. Everybody has things they're doing in life. They want to come in twice a week. You can make okay progress doing that for a long time. And then at some point, you'll have to make a decision. You know, but for most people,
Our memberships are also set up, we have an unlimited membership that is priced on the assumption that you're coming twice a week. And so for the people who are on the unlimited membership, they're kind of motivated to make sure they come twice a week to get their money's worth. And then like 3, 4, 5 times a week, that's all just extra, like free basically. And so I think that kind of helps with setting the idea that a normal week is twice a week.
It's for everybody, for youth, for adults.
Yeah, all of our pricing
Yeah.
All of our pricing is the same for kids and adults. So the only like real dollar value difference is that the youth beginner class and the teen adult beginner class are an hour, and all the other classes are 90 minutes.
What is something that you guys have found like the coaching has helped you in life outside of fencing? Like that you can relate to, like in another area of your life?
Patience.
Patience?
Dealing with people and
You get really good at zippers, difficult zippers, and as a parent, that skill has like you
Yeah.
have the same experience, Dan.
still getting there with the zippers.
You'll get there someday.
Empathy.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Like if I want to communicate what I'm doing, what I want a kid to do, or a student, I have to understand where they're coming from. And so outside of fencing, just to be in a situation where I can see somebody and be like, okay, I see what they're up to, I see what they're about. And that's, you know, a little bit as a competitor, but even more as a coach, because now I have to, like, I don't care if my opponent understands what I'm about, but as a coach, I have to care what my student, that my student understands what I'm
That
about.
makes sense.
And so you also take things for granted less. Like, you know, I've been fencing for almost 2 decades. I know how to stand on guard. I know, you know, where my arms and legs are. But like with little kids, especially like 6, 7-year-olds, you tell them to stand on guard and they're doing all these weird things. You just got to be patient with them, right? Yeah, it'll come with time.
The one other thing I'll say is giving positive instruction. You know, this has helped like when I'm talking to kids and just in everyday life is instead of saying don't do whatever, you tell them what you want. And it makes everything a lot easier. Like don't stand up versus bend your knees. The kid, first of all, you tell them like don't do that. All they hear is that. Like that's what they're hearing. You tell them, yeah, that's when the kids are worried about like their faces being itchy, instead of saying don't think about your face being itchy, I'll tell them don't think about the purple elephant or the purple rhinoceros or whatever. And you get that reverse psychology going and they start thinking about that and they stop thinking about the mask.
So I think I looked online, you guys host tournaments, right?
We do.
How
We actually have
often?
one coming up in 2 weeks.
Oh, really? How often do you do those?
We try and do like, we call them friendlies, the smaller ones we host. We try and do one of those per season.
Okay.
And then we also have a couple other tournaments that are just sort of special things. The one coming up in 2 weeks is the Brash Invitational, and we're going to host that. It's going to be 21 and over. We've done this for 5 years now, 6 years.
I've lost count.
We've done this for like 5, 6 years. We hold it at Brash Brewery over on the north side of town, and you pay your entry fee. First beer's on us, and top 3 get beer.
Okay, cool.
Beer. So it's been 21 now. USA Fencing finally has it all combined. This will be the first year we'll be able to do this as a sanctioned tournament.
Give out ratings.
You know, possibly give out the ratings. Nobody drinks until they've done fencing.
Okay.
You
They do
can't start with your beer.
Yeah,
You gotta end with your beer. But yeah, no, we do that. That's a fun one. That's pretty well attended. And we try and do that JO weekend just so we don't have to worry about all the teenagers being sad that we're not giving them a tournament then. And then,
The Fed,
pardon?
the Fed balloon.
And then the other, our other special tournament is the Fête de Lune. That was started years ago by some other fencers down in, they were practicing on NASA. And so NASA each year did, at some point in the year does like a lunar festival sort of thing. And they were holding a fencing tournament in conjunction with that. And then that was taken over by a guy by the name of John Trojanowski, and then he pulled back from that about 5 years ago.
Something like
5,
that.
6 years. He pulled back from that, and we took it over, and so we've been running it since. So it's a veteran tournament. It is historically one of the better attended veteran tournaments here in Texas, and so we do that, and then you know, vet events and whoever. If you fence all 3 weapons, and place the highest of all the people who fence all 3 weapons. It'll be a special grand prize.
Cool.
And so then we'll, try and all head out to dinner afterwards and kind of build that community a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and the friendlies, everybody gets a cookie.
So that'll be in March.
Outside, or do you have, or would you go there to referees as well? How does that work?
I'm sorry?
Who are the referees? Where do you get referees? Do you have?
Oh, we try and hire outside the club. We've got some in the club that we use, but there's a handful of really good referees here in Houston, and we lean on them quite a bit.
I just started repping a couple months ago, so kind of new to it.
So we'll be leaning on him quite a bit, yeah, and his chops. But yeah, no, we've got some really good refs here in town that do a lot of national events. We'll give them a holler and say, hey, you free this weekend? They've been pretty helpful to us.
So we're trying to develop some of our younger kids to be refs.
We're going through the same thing exactly. Like we have a seminar coming up next weekend. In North Texas, we have a drought, I'll say, of referees. We don't have many referees in North Texas.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to, we want to get into tournaments and host some tournaments. And so, well, we have a bunch of fences.
We got Gary coming for that.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
called me
Gary.
for his.
Yeah. Thank you, by the way.
You're welcome.
But so you mentioned that the new age category, adult combined.
Yes.
You want to explain to us what that is, and then also I want your personal opinion on what you think about it.
All right, so I mentioned earlier that you look at USFA membership and it goes up until college age and goes off a cliff. And so this season, USA Fencing offered 2 new events, adult and adult combined. Adult is 21 through 39, and that fills the gap where juniors age out at 20, veterans start at 40, and that's just to fill that space, to give those people a space in between. Adult combined is that adult plus veterans, so it's just 21 and older. I think it's brilliant. I think it's wonderful. I love kids. I've got 2 of my own. They're amazing. They're fun. But as a 50-year-old, I don't like fencing teenagers. It's even the ones you can beat. They're just so fast, and it's just like, okay, I get that you're fast switch, and it's just the brain's not done cooking until some point in your 20s. And so 20-year-olds fence differently than the juniors, and the juniors could be good. I mean, they could be amazing fencers, but their brain's not done yet, and so it's not as deep, it's not as interesting. But they are fast, and they're so fast, and it's like, okay, yeah, sure, you're faster than me. That's amazing. But so I think it's great. I think it gives a home. It gives a home for older fencers, for adults to keep fencing. I won't say older, they're still, you're in your 20s.
Yeah.
You've got a place. You got a place where you don't have to go against a bunch of like hyperactive,
Here's my question. Sorry, you were going to say something.
Yeah, so we have the Brash, which was actually the 3rd alcohol-based 21 and up tournament in this area. So there's one, the Bruno, that's been going for probably like 12 or 13 years. There was one at the Raylene, which is a distillery. So the Bruno is at a winery, this one is at a distillery, and then beer, we got the trifecta there.
Yeah.
Aside from the camaraderie and the alcohol tasting and the fun of that, like there has been a demand for 21 and up tournaments in this town. Like there are people who go to those tournaments who don't drink. They just want that opportunity. And so I think it's really cool that we're able to sanction it now.
They go to some of those tournaments and they don't go to any other tournaments.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
And so it's fun to fence your peers. It's fun to fence people like in your age range. It's more fun for the kids. I've shown up at tournaments, they're like, oh, the old man, I don't want to fence the old man. Funny story, I went back to school for a while to get a degree in sports admin from the University of Houston. And while I was there for Grins, I fenced with their club, and I went to a couple of collegiate tournaments, and they got mad. A lot of the college students got mad. They're like, you're not supposed to be here. And it's just like, sorry? But yeah, no, it's everybody kind of wants to fence their peers. I think the adult events that they're doing now, I think it was brilliant. I think it's a grassroots thing that is going to absolutely help grow. And I think the stronger our adult community is, the stronger and healthier the youth community will be in fencing. Just because they will have adults in the club to model behavior and to kind of to mentor them, and somebody besides the coach when that meltdown happens to be like, you know, kid, I was there, it will get better, you will be okay, you know. And just I think it's better. When I started fencing in the 90s, there was more adult fencing, and the push from USA Fencing to just kind of like grow things and really kind of mind the youth fencing approach and kind of build us internationally from a young age forward. It killed a lot of that adult fencing. They didn't have places they could go anymore, and so yeah, no, it's great.
I also do think it's a good idea. The only thing is, I don't know, and this is my personal opinion, I don't know that it will work. And I say that maybe regionally, like you said, in this town, there's like a lot, but I don't see, unless you're vying for a position on the national team, I don't see a lot of people 27 to 35, let's say, like doing the national circuit or anything like that.
Sure.
But I grew up in a world where that was, people weren't
Sure.
doing that, right?
Yeah,
So-
absolutely.
So that's what I wonder. That's my, you know.
I guess the
I
idea is
think-
to build it locally first.
Okay.
I think the niche for it is always going to be local and a little bit regional. And I think what it is we have the Fête de Lune, and you come in, you fence a bunch of vets, and we have dinner together afterwards, and it's
Yeah.
a lot of fun. It's a healthy environment. We have the brash, we go to a brewery, we all fence, we sit around, have a couple of beers afterwards. And if you have like kind of destination stuff where you start growing, my daughters did a regional tournament. One of my daughters did a regional tournament about a month ago. That was her first one. And I tried to build in extra time to the thing so that I would be able to take them. It was in Austin. Let's go and do and see some things in Austin. And so often, you know, the fencers, they go somewhere and you see the inside of the gym, you see your hotel room, the convention center, the
All
hotel.
the
You
same.
don't see like these cities with
Yeah.
all this art museums and zoos and wonderful things to see. And you go on the day, you fly in the afternoon before your event, you fly out the morning after your event,
Red eye.
and that's it. You know, you don't see anything from that city. And so if we have that, yeah, the adult fencing is going to fail.
Yeah.
If that is the model, it fails. But if you start pushing like you're going to go somewhere and you're going to hang out with people and you're going to fence and have fun and maybe have a beer and maybe have dinner and maybe like, you know, we'll get together and crew one of these years and go like tour the sister after the day after the Fête de Lune or something, you know, and do something.
What do you think, so okay, so why is the Div 1A tournament or designation, where is it failing to fill that gap?
I can't fence that. Like, I want to go fence with some people who aren't spending 6 hours a week on strip, in addition to all the time they're spending, like conditioning
Well,
and stuff.
I guess we should probably explain the difference between this combined.
Right.
This is the Div 1A.
Yeah.
Okay. So you've got the adult combined, that's 21 and up, any rate. Div 1A is any rating, but it's 13 and up. And so what happens is Div 1A events, in my opinion, my observation, it's largely filled with people who are Y14, cadet, junior, and they are just going to these tournaments and they're getting experience for
Their
fencing
age
Div 1.
category.
Their age category, and then they're building towards Div 1, which is seen above, and the people who are, you know, real serious about their fencing. And so what happens is Div 1A, if you look, you go to an event at your summer nationals, you look at the people who fence Div 1A, and you look at the people that fence juniors, and the Venn diagram is not a circle, but it's close. And whatever's not in that circle is gonna be like, vet 40 fencers, you know? And then a handful of the 21 to 39. But they don't have a place. And so again, they're going back and what they're doing, just fencing a bunch of those like, you know, rapid twitch, high fire, you know, go, go, go kids.
Whose main concern is what college am I going to get?
Yeah, who are, you know, they want to be seen. They want to be seen by coaches. They want to be seen by these things. And so they're out there. And it's just, it's a completely different vibe. If you have adult combined, you're catering to the people, you're not catering to the teens anymore, but you're catering to 20-somethings, 30-somethings who might have fenced, and they might have fenced at that level, but now they're out of college and they've got a job, they can only train 1 or 2 nights a week,
Got a family.
and they can't go in and maintain what they had, but they can't go in and get blown up by teenagers and go, well, this isn't fun. I used to be the one blowing up the old man. Now I'm the old man. And so yeah, you know, adult combined, it's gonna take a couple of years for those events to start really kind of populating.
Do you think that you fill those events by bringing new people into the sport or pulling people back into the sport? Or do you think it's going to be more from
New people.
I agree.
New people,
I agree.
because a lot of those people who did fence at that level as youth, they're just not going to come back because they remember where they were, and they might come back when they're like 50.
Sure.
I will
They
say
retire and now they can like try for a vet team or something.
I will say that as a club, we're pretty good at getting some of those people back. Like I've had friends who have quit fencing and then they've come back to fence with us in their mid-20s and 30s and stuff. So
It's
that's
always
pretty
an
cool.
adjustment for those folks though, because
Right.
they remember how good they were. And
Yeah.
so what does fencing mean to me now that I'm not working to get into college, and I'm not competing for my college?
Yeah. Adult programs are gonna be, I think, and this is probably my personal bias, it's people like us who started in college, who I fenced in college, and then afterwards, you know, I wanna keep fencing. And, you know, at the time, there was still, again, a decent number of adults around there fencing. And now, I like to think it's starting to come back a little bit, but it's not coming back in that, you know, part as much as I think it should.
From my observation, not from the United States, I see that I'm talking specifically about kids or youth. They only go to fencing most of the time just to get into the college.
Yeah,
And after this, it's done.
yeah,
So I'm like, so you have to do something you like to do.
Yeah.
And maybe it's your hobby eventually after you finish and graduate. You should do it. But it's gone.
right, yeah, no.
It always surprises me, you know, I'm on Instagram, seeing all these fencers. So I used to fence with when I was fencing junior, and they're announcing their retirements when they get 22. And I'm like, I thought you would have been fencing for the rest of your life. Like, you seem to really like the sport.
Yeah, well, I mean, they get, you know, whatever they needed to get out of it, they got out of it, and then priorities change, and you know, at some point you have to pay your college debt, and you know, you want to buy a house, and it's going to take time, you know, and so.
That's the other thing, you know, a lot of clubs, if you're set up to be real competitive, you know, that starts adding up fast. You know, we try and keep our prices, we set our prices, we look not as much at the fencing clubs here in town as we looked at like, you know, karate dojos and things like that, you know, other stuff that people do. You know, how much does it cost to do a monthly program? And we have to cost a little bit more than that because you can put 50 people over there doing yoga, but we can only, you know, 20 tops for fencing. You know,
And then we got to cover broken club equipment,
yeah.
broken zippers.
Right. But yeah, it's so we're trying to look at, you know, doing something where those people who are paying off bills, you know, they're not like, okay, this is something that's geared at people who are trying to get their kids into college.
Yeah, I mean, it's also like, you're comparing, let's say somebody, a typical parent's what, late 40s, mid 50s, let's say something like that, and they're probably upper into their career as far as their income, where they're going to be, versus a guy that just got out of college, you know, probably
Right.
starting on the lower end of things, and it's
Yeah.
this money support to be there is like not what it is, you know. It is for yourself instead of the kid. Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that's cool. So what else you got?
Regarding the youth program, I mean, youth, kids, children, how hard it is for you? It depends, of course, on the level the student want to be compared. How hard for you to compare with parents? Because sometimes parents either helping or, I mean, they're paying, let's say, like if they're paying, so how do you cooperate with them to bring
To make her talk to the parents.
I'm the one, I like talking to the parents.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some parents who just, they decided what they want and they think they are coaches, they never find before,
Yeah.
but they decided they know what has to be done. And the result has to be like today, like maybe yesterday. What do you do in this situation?
I have heard of clubs where they will require the parents of competitive kids to do a beginner class. We've never gone that far, but I've had parents who would start after their kids had been fencing for a while, and Greg was like, I'm never gonna give my daughter grief about getting dressed. This is actually like really complicated. Where does this clip? And you know, all that kind of stuff. I think that we have an approach that is very like fencer focused. And so anytime parents are coming to me like, I want my kid to do X, I want my kid to do Y, I'm always like, we need to sit down, you, me, and the kid, or Coach Dan and you and the kid, or you know, all four of us, whatever. We need to all be in a room making this decision together. And one side of that is like, if I tell, you know, mom says, I think my kid needs to work on this, or needs to take private lessons, or needs to go to more tournaments, and my kid isn't sure about it, and to me, that's a conversation that mostly needs to happen between the coach and the kid. Because if I tell the mom, like, yeah, have them do like cardio at home, then the mom, that's one more thing she's gotta nag the kid about.
The kids will start to resent fencing because their parents are always telling
But they're
them.
also like, as a parent, I spend a lot of my time telling my kid what to do, and they listen better to other people about a lot of things. And then the other side of it is you'll have parents who are pushing their kids to be competitive where that's not what the kid wants, and they are going to end up resenting it. And so when you bring the kid into the conversation and you make it really clear in the like, not in a mean way, but clear to the parent that they have to be the one driving this. That if you take them to a tournament and they don't want to be there, everybody's going to have a bad time and you're going to waste your money. So this needs to be something that this fencer wants to do. And honestly, the parents that aren't okay with that, they end up going to other clubs, which it stinks.
We've lost parents.
Yeah.
I was coaching a kid at a tournament one time, and the parent came up and was like, the other coaches are all yelling actions at their kids, but you're not. Why is that? And I'm like, because these very good reasons, you know, you want the kids to be able to figure out their own thing. I'm there to support the kid. It's the kid's problem to solve. This is how the kid's gonna grow. Once the kid understands what they're doing, they're gonna blah, blah, blah. You know, and those other kids, you yell actions at a kid. You do parry forward post, do double advanced lunge now, do this. And you see those kids do it, and you see they get good results. But they can't perform without a coach there. They're puppets. And they're very talented puppets, but they're puppets. They can't think, they can't function without a coach. They haven't learned, they haven't taken anything away from the sport. When I fence, I love fencers like that. You hear what the coach says to them, you give them a kind of a look, and then you just like wreck the kid. And the coach is like screaming at their kid, the kid's crying. Nobody learns anything. And so I explained this I've explained this to parents, and said, yeah, okay, wow, that's great. And a week later, they left the club, went somewhere else.
And what I've seen,
where the coaches yell at them and tell them what to do, and the kids haven't gotten any better. They haven't developed at all.
and what I've seen at a lot of these different clubs, especially more like competitive focused ones, is a lot of their fencers fence the exact same way, right? Maybe once they get to a higher level and they get a little bit older, they start their own style. But at some point, a lot of the kids just do the same thing. You know how to beat that, you know how to beat that. So.
So I have a Yeah. So, you know, as we've talked to some of these other clubs, I've heard this answer both ways, and I want to see what your guys' answer is. So, there's some clubs, coaches, however you want to call it, they want their parents not to be educated on anything that's going on, and some do. I've seen both clubs that are, let's say, strong clubs, and let's say weak clubs that believe in both sides of those philosophies. So, what are some pros to each one of those sides, and which one do you guys like?
If I have a parent who knows something about fencing, I also know something about fencing. They usually see that and they understand. They understand, like, even if they don't necessarily agree with my style, they see where I'm coming from and we can reach a thing. So I like that. I have a parent who doesn't know anything about fencing, then that parent is going to ask me a bunch of questions, and they'll either start to trust me or they won't. And if they won't, then it's a miserable thing. But if they do, it's the same as the other one. For me, the question isn't whether the parent knows something about fencing. The question is whether the parent respects me as a coach. And so I think as a coach, I have to try and foster and build and create that respect. I can't come in and say, I've been doing this for 30 years, I've gotten this number of medals, I've gotten like blah, 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 whatever. That's not the way to get respect. But if I can show them that I respect their kid, I respect them, I have standing for the things I say, and I can get them to respect me, their knowledge of the sport doesn't really matter. It's a question of building respect for them. And so that's why I don't think you'll see a good club or a bad club on both sides of that, where they're wanting their parents to know or not know. I think a lot of coaches are authoritarian. I have a very authoritarian streak in me that I try and kind of keep down. But as an authoritarian style coach, you're not going to want your parents to know anything, because
You want to be the sole source.
you want to be like, this, and the parents, yes sir, no, yes ma'am, you know.
As the one who's usually talking to the parents, I do like it when they know stuff. I want them to feel comfortable enough with me that they can come and ask the questions instead of trying to do it on their own. I think the most frustrating parent interactions that I've had are the ones where the parent doesn't want to bother me, goes and buys like the wrong lame off Amazon, and then, I mean, you know, my favorite was someone had been asking a lot of questions. Her kids were going to their first tournament, and she felt like she was asking too many questions. Every single email includes an apology. Every single response includes it's really okay, this is my job. So she decides to email the tournament organizer with a pretty basic question instead of emailing me. The tournament organizer is my mom. And so my mom's like, you should ask Coach Liz, that's my daughter. I said, I have spies everywhere, just ask me.
Yeah, we've had a handful of times when people buy from Amazon or whatever, and it's the old strap on the back of the mask, or it's,
Those are still
you
legal.
know, whatever, you know, or the case, yeah, or AliExpress or whatever. And I'll say this: so where we live, we're fortunate enough to where we have there's a local vendor in the area,
Yeah.
and his house is his store.
Yeah.
And so we just say, hey, this is where we get our stuff from. Like, just go to him. He'll point you in the right direction. But yeah, actually, we had a guy who I think he had to return a mask like 3 or 4 times. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was a fun thing. Yeah.
We'll try to put it in club orders.
Okay.
Yeah.
We did one with PBT recently.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, won't take up any more time. We appreciate you guys.
I hope the audio is usable with all the baseball stuff going on.
Yeah. It helps. It helps. I would say this. So, like, here's. Do you guys want to like plug Instagram or like where you're located or like class times in case anybody watches and they want to come by or anything like that?
Yeah, so our Instagram is at Houston Swords. We are Houston Swords Sports on Facebook. We'll be on Blue Sky real soon, but hopefully. And So we're located on Stella Link near the southwest part of 610. And we've got free beginner classes at the end of every month, the last Friday of every month, so you just missed one. Just check HoustonSwords.com has all the information about classes.
What's the name of the building like they're directed by? What will it say?
We're in the Zone Sportplex.
Okay.
It's 10371 Stella.
We're behind the batting cages.
Okay.
Good timing, thank you.
Sometimes we get a baseball field.
Oh yeah?
No, they're fixing it.
They're
They're
fixing it
fixing
next
it. That's never gonna happen again.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
That kid's going to the major leagues.
for sure. For sure. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you guys.